Hi y'all, and welcome back to Cammie's Kitchen. Today we're making one of my favorite one-pot meals, a whole roasted chicken and veggies. We'll start by prepping our chicken, patting it dry completely, removing the insides from the cavity, and beginning to prep the skin for seasoning. Next, we'll chop up our veggies and layer them right into the bottom of our Dutch oven. They'll soak up all those incredible juices from the chicken as it roasts, so every bite is full of flavor. Then we'll make our seasoning paste and brush it all over our chicken, inside and out, making sure it's fully coated. Finally, we'll place our chicken on top of the veggies, pop the lid on, and bake it until it's golden, juicy, and fall apart tender. Everything cooks together in this Dutch oven, so by the time it's done, you've got a complete meal. Perfectly roasted chicken with tender, flavorful veggies, all in one pot. Let's get started. I am a huge fan of one-pot meals for obvious reasons. I don't have a lot of time on my hands, and I think any mom watching this would agree. Those kind of meals that you can feed your entire family and only use one dish, one pot, one pan, have minimal cleanup, everything tastes amazing. That is this recipe right here. I feel like a lot of people are intimidated because you are cooking a whole chicken, and this is a very large bird. Like, you are cooking this thing as well as the veggies that are going to be your side, all in one pot. So there is a lot of pressure associated with something like this, but I'm telling you right now, it is not too good to be true. This is as easy as I'm going to show you that it looks, and this specific recipe you can do in under an hour. To start prepping our chicken, we are going to remove all of the gizzards from the cavity. You can save these for another recipe, or you can toss them. I am tossing mine. Next, make sure your hands are clean or you're using gloves, and carefully separate the skin from the meat all over the chicken. This step is key because it allows our seasoning to get under the skin and really soak in. Finally, we're going to pat the chicken completely dry with paper towels. This is super important, y'all. If the chicken isn't dry, our seasoning paste will just slide right off. We want it to stick as much as possible for maximum flavor. Once you got your bird as dry as possible, take a few extra paper towels and simply place them on top of your chicken. We are going to leave these paper towels on here while we're prepping our veggies as well as our paste, and that is just going to allow these paper towels to soak up any extra moisture that we might have missed. Because your veggies will essentially be cooking in those delicious chicken juices on the bottom of your Dutch oven, we want to make sure that they are hardy enough to withstand the temperatures without disintegrating. These are going to be your hardier veggies like your potatoes, your carrots, your onions, Brussels sprouts. You want to avoid softer veggies like zucchini and tomatoes. I'm not saying don't use them, you absolutely can, just timing is everything with those softer veggies. You want to be able to cut them up and have them prepped maybe 15 minutes prior to you taking the Dutch oven out. You want to add those in. For our veggie mixture, I'm using baby potatoes. I like to have them so they roast evenly, but if your potatoes are small enough, you can leave them whole. Either way works. As they roast under the chicken, they'll soak up all those amazing juices. Next, we have carrots. I am peeling mine and cutting them into chunks, not too small. We want them to hold up and stay a little hearty after roasting. Red onions are next. I cut them small, but not too small, just enough so that they'll release their flavor without completely disappearing. And finally, corn. I cut each cob into about 5 or 6 pieces. Corn isn't a veggie that you often see in these types of roasts, but we love corn in our house. It holds up really well during roasting, and it soaks up all those delicious juices from the chicken, adding a little extra sweetness and texture to the dish. If you have a roasting pan, definitely take it out for this recipe. However, if you don't, you definitely want to use a Dutch oven. That is the next best thing. I actually prefer it over a roasting pan because you have the lid, and I feel like any kind of ceramic pot with the lid will allow you to really lock in the moisture of this chicken and allow all our veggies to be super flavorful. We're going to remove the lid from our Dutch oven, and we're going to start placing our veggies directly inside. There's really no strict order for placing your veggies in the Dutch oven, so really just toss them in, making sure that they're evenly distributed. Once they're all in, we'll drizzle a light coat of your preferred cooking oil over the top. I'm using avocado oil today, but you can use whatever you like. Once your veggies are prepped, it is time to go back to our bird. But first, we want to make sure our oven is preheated to 425. This is absolutely not necessary, but I will be using my mortar and pestle to create our herb butter for our chicken. I absolutely love using this because it really allows you to crush up all those herbs and allow them to release all those delicious flavors into our butter. For our seasoning paste, I am using fresh thyme, fresh rosemary, and a little bit of fresh parsley, zest of a whole lemon, Now we're going to chop all of these nice and small and add them to your mortar along with some fresh garlic. I'm also squeezing half of our lemon. This adds brightness, fresh flavor. Then we want to start crushing everything together until it forms a fragrant, flavorful paste. Don't worry if for some reason yours is still chunky like mine is, that is totally fine. Next, we will add half a stick of melted butter. Now I am using my favorite seasoning, Chupacabra poultry seasoning. We will continue mixing this until the paste is not liquidy anymore. If for some reason yours is still very runny, simply add more seasoning to thicken it up. At this point, you will notice that because your butter has been sitting out in your paste, it will start to harden. This will actually make it a lot easier for you. So you can just literally scoop it up like this, put it inside of your skin, and then use your hand to take it off your spoon and massage it onto your chicken. This is super effective. Also, you don't get your hands too dirty with your seasoning. Next, we will spread all of our herb paste over the chicken until it's completely coated. Make sure to season both sides as evenly as possible. And yes, I know this is super hard, especially if you're working with a chicken as large as mine. Once the bottom side is covered, I like to flip the chicken directly into the Dutch oven so I can re-season the top if needed. Usually when you're working with a paste like this one, when you flip it over the first time, most of the seasoning comes off on whatever surface you're working with. Mine was a cutting board in this case, so putting it into your Dutch oven directly allows you to re-season the top of the chicken and get it really nice and seasoned. Lastly, I like to really maximize the flavor inside the chicken by stuffing it with 1 whole lime, a sprig of rosemary, a couple sprigs of thyme, and to add even more flavor, I love to include some green onion. Of course, you can really stuff it with whatever you like. Just get creative and make it your own. Before we put our bird in the oven, the last thing we want to do is tie up the drumsticks. This is mostly for presentation, but it does make the chicken look much nicer and also helps keep any stuffing inside, which is why I do it. Next, we are going to tuck the wings underneath the chicken. Even though we'll be cooking with the lid on for most of the time, we'll remove the lid towards the end, and if the wings are not tucked, they are more likely to burn. So this step really helps keep everything perfect. I feel like I have to share this because the first time I made this recipe, I made a huge mistake, and it was something so small and so easily avoidable that you need to make sure that you don't do it. Make sure that your oven is set to roast at 425, not to bake at 425. Those are two completely separate things, and yes, it will affect how your bird is cooked. Once your Dutch oven is inside of your oven, make sure that you cook it for 1 hour and 15 minutes. After this, we're going to take the lid off and then roast it for another 30 minutes. That will get us that really nice crispy skin that we've been talking about. At the beginning of this video, I know I mentioned that you can make this recipe in under 1 hour. I should have specified that it is for a normal sized whole chicken. I got one that was a little bit over that. It's 6.5 pounds, which is why the cook time was a little bit longer for mine. But if you're using a normal sized chicken, which is usually 3 to 4 pounds, then you should be able to get it cooked completely in that 1 hour time frame that we talked about. Quick tip, if you're using a Dutch oven like I am and you're not preparing to serve this anytime soon, what I like to do is take it out of the oven, set it on your stovetop, and let it start cooling down. Since our skin is nice and crispy exactly how we want it, we're actually going to take the lid and put it back on our chicken. This is going to allow all of that moisture to stay locked in there and give us that delicious, juicy chicken and those flavorful veggies that we're looking for. The only thing to consider if you do this is that your skin might get a little soggy because all of that moisture is going to stay locked in there. So if you are planning to serve this in maybe a few hours, just take the lid off if you want that nice crispy skin to be there, and you can either put it back in the oven when you're ready to serve and broil it for a couple minutes, or you can just serve it as is, which is what I'm going to do because it's going to be perfect. If you're not using a Dutch oven, just disregard. You can just take it out of the oven, let it cool for 15 minutes, and then carve into it. And there you have it, folks, the juiciest, most delicious whole roasted chicken ever. Oh my gosh, I hope you guys try this recipe for your family, especially if you don't have a lot of time and you really want something hearty and full of protein. All you have to do is maybe mix a salad to go with it, and you are done. Thank you so much, as always, for watching my video, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.